welcome to Are You Ready? I'm Sarah Peterson here with Mike Carpenter, president of Asset Guard. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I have 2 new grandchildren. Life couldn't be better.
I love it. That is my favorite. Babies make everything better, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I know we always have so many topics to cover, but there is just so much that goes into planning for your retirement. And when we say that, we say written plan, which unfortunately most people just don't have.
That's right. The majority of people that come in my office do not have any planning whatsoever. And I mean like 90% or more do not have, cannot even give me any kind of one-sheet plan. This is what we're doing, let alone a thorough book like we give them.
And it amazes me because I think we all spend a little bit more time planning, you know, our vacation next week or, you know, what we're going to do with our kiddos. And we just don't think about these things because it just seems like that we'll deal with that down the line. But it's so important to get ahead of these things so we can avoid a lot of these missteps that can happen.
Yes, I mean, in this day and time with inflation doing what it's doing, the debt doing what it's doing, obviously something's going to happen, and taxes are going to be one of the things that are going to be going up here sooner or later, already scheduled for 2026 increase.
Do a lot of your clients ask you, Mike, what do you think about taxes? Are they going up? And you say, I don't have a crystal ball, but.
Well, I tell them I don't know when it's going to happen other than when the current tax law sunsets in 2025, it will revert back to 2017 tax rates, and there's going to be a drastic increase.
I'm not sure that people want to remember this, but you know, back in the 80s, our taxes were what, up to 80%. I mean, right now, historically, our taxes are relatively low.
Compared to the highs, yes.
Yes.
And what I love to do with every single one of my clients, my objective, first of all, is to make sure they have the plan so that we know their money lasts as long as they're going to be on this earth. But part of the things that interfere with people's longevity, their money, is how much taxes they're going to pay. Because most people have saved money into 401ks, IRAs, not realizing what is the looming tax burden they're going to have when they start pulling money out, and at 72, when the government mandates they start taking it out.
Well, in terms of taxes, I think a lot of people are focused on tax preparation, which we do with our CPA, which is history, right? But we're talking more about proper tax planning, and there are different vehicles you can use to avoid paying, you know, too much taxes.
Well, a lot of people will use, for example, tax-deferred annuities to grow their money, whether it's in IRA, whether it's non-qualified funds. And so that money, sooner or later, you know, the taxes have to be paid upon withdrawal. And so, you know, as part of the planning process, we're going to look at, okay, when are you going to retire? And then how much income are you going to be pulling from your IRAs or your 401ks or, you know, your pension, including your Social Security. And most people that come in don't realize their Social Security is going to be taxed or could be taxed. And our goal is to help make sure that it's not taxed at all.
Well, and that is what we all need to hear these days because, like you said, we don't have a crystal ball, but we sort of feel like with all this debt that we're accruing, this money has to come from somewhere. So we all need to plan that the best vehicles we can to preserve our taxes now would be best.
Right, because, I mean, since the pandemic started in 2020, there's been roughly $8 trillion that have been printed in the last 2 years. And that's done 2 things. One, it's one of the leading causes of the current inflation cycle that we're in, but ultimately that money's got to be paid back. And it's going to come in the form of higher taxes because the government certainly isn't going to cut their expenses. They couldn't cut their expenses enough to reduce that tax burden.
Well, let's talk more specifically about what vehicles are available to help with that tax burden. I know Roth IRAs are kind of in the forefront right now. A lot of people are interested in that.
Right. A lot of people come to me and they say, okay, let's talk about Roth. Well, they don't realize that, you know, if you were to convert a $100,000 Roth IRA, immediately that goes on top of whatever you've earned in that given year. And so you now are in a different tax bracket. Another thing that will trigger, especially if you're drawing Medicare, is it will kick your Medicare Part B premiums higher. They can actually go over $500 a month. Currently, the average person pays about a little over $170 for Part B. So there's multiple things that we have to think about when it comes to doing a Roth conversion. I did one recently with a lady. She's 66 years old. She had over a $1 million IRA, and she didn't need any of this money. But when she hit 72, her RMD was going to be reaching $100,000 a year, which would have kicked them into a higher tax bracket then. So what I'm doing with her is doing a systematic Roth conversion over the next 6 years, and hopefully with the Secure Act 2.0 getting ready to maybe be passed into law, they're trying to extend that out to maybe 75, which will give us a little bit more time to do Roth conversion. But in her case, in her and her husband's lifetime, they're going to save about $400,000 in taxes, and that much or more if they were to leave the IRA and then pass away and leave it to their 2 kids. Their kids would have been slaughtered with taxes as well. So converting to a Roth IRA is a win-win situation for them.
And this is very situational as far as people, I mean, you need to really look at their whole picture, right, to find out if this is the right vehicle for them.
Yes, I mean, for example, I had a client pass away recently, and his only daughter came in, and we're right now processing this strategy that I'm implementing on her, because when a child inherits a parent's IRA, they have to liquidate that within 10 years, and that was part of the recent law changes back in 2018, I think actually 2015, I forget the exact date. But nonetheless, what I'm doing with her, because she has to take the $200,000 she's receiving and take it out over a 10-year period of time. So systematically, each year, we're converting that money, because she can't take that money and immediately convert it to a Roth IRA. That can't be done in that situation. But we can take a systematic of money over 10 years and put it into another tax-free benefit. So at 41 years old, with the plan we're putting into place, by the time she's 65, she's going to be able to start a $40,000 a year tax-free income for the rest of her life.
Wow, unbelievable. And that, all it takes is a proper plan, and you can save so much money, and it is, why should we pay more than what we need to pay? It's incredible, the vehicles that are available to us. If you have a professional on your side, I want to give you that phone number, 844-546-1009. We have a very special offer for you. We'll tell you more about it on the next segment. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and talk more about tax planning for retirement.
There's a lot that goes into making a good salad. You need patience and the right ingredients, but you also have to take time to taste it along the way to make sure you're heading in the right direction. When I was a kid, I remember seeing my dad work 3 jobs to provide for me and the rest of my family. I watched my dad closely. I learned so much about business and how to work hard from him. All of that only grew once he started the family business in 1975. It was around that time that my mom started getting sick. I might have learned business from my dad, but it was my mom who really taught me how to deal with people, how to treat them, and how to love them well. It was in watching her provide and care for others, even in the midst of her failing health, that shaped a lot of who I am today. Mom passed away in 1988, and it was just a few years after that that I started my journey into the financial world by launching Asset Guard. I wanted to be different. I wanted to bring everything I had learned from my mom and dad into this company. I wanted to add a personal touch, an intentional effort to build relationships with our clients in an increasingly distant and digital world. This isn't just something I have been able to accomplish with my clients over the years, but my son and daughter have also come alongside me to help provide for our growing financial family. It's truly been a blessing being able to be so involved in our clients' lives. I've made so many new friends and lasting relationships, and have even sat at deathbeds of a few of them who have passed away. It takes patience to build a stable financial future. You also need to make sure you have the right ingredients to make your money last. But the most important part about your finances are the people that they help sustain. We really care about those people, and we want to do whatever we can to help them. Making a good salad can be an amazing thing, but it means nothing if you have no one to enjoy it with.
Welcome back to Are You Ready? I'm Sarah Peterson here with Mike Carpenter of Asset Guard, and we are talking about tax planning when it comes to retirement. There are just so many different vehicles that can help us to avoid paying too much taxes. And I'd love to talk about the different forms of tax-free income that are available as we're starting to plan for retirement.
So again, most people, we just finished talking about Roth IRAs. They were started in 1998, and anyone that has earned income can contribute to those, and anyone can convert an IRA or a 401k over to a Roth IRA as long as they're willing to pay the conversion tax. The second vehicle is what's called fixed indexed universal life policy. They're a common form of creating tax-free income. Another form, and it's not widely used, but when someone's back is against the wall and they have invested, and a house is an investment. A lot of times it's someone's biggest investment. If their back's against the wall, they've run out of money, they don't have enough money, sometimes you can do a reverse mortgage. If you understand all of the facts that revolve around that, but that money coming to you is tax-free. Then another common way that retirees have used tax-free income is through triple tax-free bonds. Now, you don't pay any taxes on federal, state, or local taxes, but what most people don't realize is that it's almost like what I call ghost tax. It will pull sometimes all of your Social Security over into that taxable column. I had a client recently, I won't name the company, that put him into this very large bond portfolio, and they did not tell him. He was 62 when he went into it, and they didn't tell him that when he got to 72 and he started pulling his RMDs out, he thought he was going to be tax-free. Well, he didn't realize that all of his Social Security was now sitting in that taxable column. As long as he was pulling the income from the bonds, he wasn't paying any taxes. But as soon as he started pulling the RMD out, then taxes started hitting him like he'd never expected. And had I met with him then, we would have restructured it, and he and his wife right now would be tax-free completely. Wow. But the mistakes that are made by previous advisors, by not telling the whole story or not having a plan, they did not have a plan. He brought me in statements from 3 different groups that he was working with, but there was no plan. There was no roadmap.
I think that's part of the problem, is that people believe that stack of statements is their plan, and it really isn't. And so in order to put all those things together, we need to get the big picture, right? Because each of these plans is unique and individualized to that person.
Yeah, because remember, most people in their mind, when they're working, they're getting this mass amount of money. They're putting in systematically. Every month, their company might be contributing something. And in their mind, they think, I'm just going to live off the interest. Well, they're not calculating taxes. They're not calculating inflation. And when all these things happen all at once, they say, and they're expecting to live off the interest. So tax and inflation was eating their cake. Now the inflation and the market volatility, they don't make any money. So they were going to plan on living, let's say in their mind, they were going to pull 10% interest, off their funds every year. Well, what if you don't make any money? You can't pull any money out. Or what if you lose money? I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen. Our plans, our clients, no matter what happens, we have a plan in place that it just keeps rolling. Their income keeps rolling, and their objective of making their money last as long as they are here is in place.
So let's talk about some other vehicles for tax-free income. Reverse mortgages, I think, are very confusing to a lot of people.
Yeah, to give you an example, my grandmother did one. And a lot of times, older generation, my grandmother was, maybe 90-something when she passed away. And, what goes on behind closed doors, we generally don't know. And my aunts didn't know that she had done a reverse mortgage. Now, her home was worth $1 million when she died. And they thought there was nothing owed on it, but all of a sudden they got a notice from a mortgage company that said, you owe us $150,000. Now, neither of my aunts had the money to pay that off, and there wasn't any excess cash in my grandmother's estate because she ran out of money because of a health issue. But this happened right before the last housing crisis crash of 2007, 2008. So as my aunts were bickering about what to do with the house, they finally got it sold within 2 weeks of it being foreclosed on. They still were able to sell it. They paid off the mortgage and distributed what was remaining to the heirs. But my grandmother needed the money, but she wasn't going to reach out to any of the family saying, hey, I need your help, because she had run out of the cash reserve assets, and now she only had her house. But she was at home with around-the-clock nursing care, and she had to pay them in order for her to survive.
So it's not something we recommend necessarily to most people, but it is a vehicle that can be useful if needed.
And I've had some clients come to me, and I'll help them analyze whether it's right for them. Again, if your back is against the wall and you need cash, we got to find it from somewhere, because at 75 or 78, however old, if you're not feeling good enough, or you can't go back to work, you got to find the asset. And
that's why it's so important to get the plan in place before
Right.
we get to that scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are some other tax-free income options? Let's talk about bonds.
Well, bonds, they're
Actually, you know what? Before we get into bonds, we're going to take a quick commercial break soon. I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole, aren't I? I want to make sure that I give that phone number to everybody. It's 844-546-1009. This is so incredible, this offer that we're giving to the viewers of this show only today.
Yes. So obviously, all of our clients will get a thorough plan that's from A to Z financially, but everyone that calls in today will actually get the first part of this book, and it's the Retirement Planning Guide. Less than 10% of Americans actually have this kind of planning document, and every one of you that call in today and come in and see me, sit down for that second opinion, will actually walk out with this. And if for some reason you decide not to move forward with me, you still have this as a valuable tool for your planning.
It is invaluable, to say the least. 844-546-1009. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and talk more about tax-free vehicles in planning for your retirement. Stay with us.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Hello and welcome back to Are You Ready? I'm Sarah Peterson here with Mike Carpenter of Asset Guard, and we were talking before the break about different vehicles of tax-free income. And I mentioned bonds, and then I always cut you off. So I want to make sure we get to that.
Well, bonds are a part of a lot of people's portfolio. A lot of times, the rule of 100 is the closer you are to 100, let's say you're 7 years old, 70% of your money should be in something safe, 30% at risk. That's a typical way that people look at things. And that safe money in most advisors' thoughts are bonds. But there are better alternatives, in my opinion, and we can explore those when someone comes in to see me, because there are some risk inside of bonds. They're not completely safe.
Okay, what is a QCD?
It's a qualified charitable distribution. Many of my clients don't even want to pull any money out of their IRA, but at 72, whatever your RMD is amount, if you do a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution, that actually leapfrogs. It goes directly from your IRA custodian to your church of your choice, your charity of your choice, and it just literally leapfrogs over your whole taxation.
That's fantastic. I think that a lot of people are not aware that there are so many different vehicles that they can use to not avoid paying taxes, but pay what's owed and save you so much money in the long run by having a proper plan in place.
And if the tax planning is done properly, again, I mentioned in earlier shows that a lot of folks, have $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 in an IRA, and they may not have a pension, so they just have their Social Security income, and they're going to be pulling some money out of their IRA. Well, if we keep the amount of money that they withdraw out of that IRA, they're still going to be in a tax-free position. Now, when that IRA goes to the next generation, it's going to be taxed, or if by chance they left the IRA to a charity, then there's tax favored status in that case. But we're going to explore every possible avenue to have tax-free income, because by having tax-free income, one of the big benefits, especially in this inflationary cycle, if you pay less to Uncle Sam, you have more in your pocket to enjoy life with.
Well, and if we're looking at the big picture, it's not always how much money. If you had $100, it's not that $100, it's where it's located and when we pull it out. Timing is a lot of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have people that come to me and they have plenty of income, but they've saved all this money. They have this giant, whether it's $100,000, some people think $100,000 is a giant IRA, and in some cases it is. But it's all relative to what someone's thinking in their mind. But the primary thought that people have is, hey, I've saved all this money, I want to start spending it. And when I tell people, look, okay, you have the Social Security, you have your pension, and when I tell them, if you just pull $1,000 a month out of your IRA, you're now going to be paying taxes. And they say, oh, I don't want to do that. Let's put it off as long as possible. So, because taxes is one of the things that people hate, especially in retirement.
Well, and you mentioned Social Security, and that could probably be a whole show on its own, but a lot of people aren't aware of the tax implications of their Social Security either. Yes,
and it leads me into, without going into great detail, this high inflationary cycle that we're in happened back from 74 to about 82, where in that period of time, the cost of living adjustments, because of inflation, Social Security recipients increased by 70% over that period of time. And that's creating a massive amount of problems. And when it comes to Social Security taxation, that's when they tax benefits for the first time, because of all that happening then they, in 83, they pulled 50% of your Social Security could be taxable, and then in 1993, they made Social Security 85% taxable under certain circumstances. So we're much worse off now than we were in 82 or 83 or 93, and so the likelihood of them making Social Security taxation 100% is very high.
We don't have a crystal ball, but we do know what history has taught us, and we see this kind of repeating itself. And there's so many wonderful ways that we can avoid making those same mistakes going forward if we have a written plan, which is what we're offering today. And I want to make sure that the viewers understand how special this is.
The planning process, I cannot reiterate this enough. Every one of our clients, now some of our earlier clients have a different form, but we have been enhancing this over time, but it literally covers everything. I mean, it's customized with their name. My name is, my cell number's on the inside, so that when something happens and your daughter who's taking care of your estate, finds this book that you told her where it was and said, call Mike, they can get me any time of the day or night, because the emotions are running wild. They don't know what to do. Where is this? Where is that? And if this is maintained, and we were diligent at maintaining this, then I actually offer as a part of my service that I'll take a surviving spouse, which I'm getting to next week, or a surviving daughter, which I'm also doing with, to the clerk, so that if possible, it's just one visit to the clerk and all the probate process is done. But the planning, it starts with the planning.
I've seen that time and time again where people are scrambling, and it doesn't need to be that way. If it's organized and planned out in advance, there's so many ways we can avoid, like you said, you're dealing with grief and all these other things. We want to take that stress and anxiety out of that process and make this as simple as possible.
Imagine if you loaded all your kids in the car, you didn't tell them where you were going. In your mind, you were going to Disney. Okay, now how would you get to Disney from Phoenix or Winston-Salem or Topeka, or wherever you're at, without a map or a GPS? Everyone's there ready to go. You're telling them your destination. Well, that's what retirement is. You know what you want to do in life, but if you don't have a plan, you may get sidetracked and get lost, and then you never reach your destination.
And you work so hard, and this is what you've earned and deserved. And so I think ultimately having this plan allows people to realize their dreams and feel that peace of mind that they can go and enjoy those go-go years of life.
Yeah, and typically they'll call me. There's two things that clients will do once they retire. Either they're buying a house, or they're renovating the house, or they're buying a new vehicle. Where are you going to get this money from? They go into their IRA or 401k, and what's going to happen? Taxes.
Well, I want to make sure the viewers have that number again. It's 844-546-1009. This is a special offer just for you, so please have patience when you call the phone lines. Thank you so much, Mike, for always giving us this invaluable education.
Thank you.
And thank you for spending time with us on your road to retirement. We hope you'll join us on the next one.